I never thought I'd become the kind of husband who questions his wife's every move, who watches the clock tick past midnight wondering why she hasn't come home yet, who scrolls through her location history like a detective instead of a partner. But that's exactly who I became the night I sat alone at the dinner table, staring at 2 cold plates of food and wondering how the hell we got here. My wife, Amanda, had been the most organized, reliable, honest person I had ever met. She ran her life like a spreadsheet, color-coded calendars, synced devices, perfectly scheduled appointments. And for the first 9 years of our marriage, I never had a reason to question her. She was a marketing executive at a local firm, and I knew the job came with long hours, demanding clients, and last-minute campaigns. But something changed about 6 months ago. It started small, an extra meeting here, a work dinner there, a client emergency that required her to stay overnight at the office. I didn't think much of it at first. Hell, I even admired her dedication. But then came the nights she didn't answer her phone, the vague excuses, the scent of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes, and the way she seemed both drained and distracted when she finally came home. I chalked it up to stress, maybe burnout. We even argued about it once, and she accused me of being paranoid, of trying to control her, of not respecting her career. I backed off. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But then came the night that shattered all the illusions I had left. It was a Thursday. She said she'd be working late on a presentation and might not be home until after midnight. That wasn't unusual lately, but this time, something in her tone felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. So I did something I'd never done before. I opened the Find My app on my phone. She had shared her location with me years ago, back when it was just a convenience thing. In case of emergencies, we said. I never used it. Until that night. I expected to see her near her office. Instead, the little dot on the screen was across town, in a quiet residential neighborhood I didn't recognize. I stared at the screen, frozen, my mind racing through possibilities. Was she lost? Did she stop by a friend's house? Was there some work thing at a client's place? But deep down I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. I watched the dot for 15 minutes. It didn't move. She was inside that house. Not working. Not stuck at the office. She was inside someone's home, and I wasn't invited. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. The drive felt like a blur, but every second crawled in my chest like ice melting into dread. I followed the GPS like a man possessed, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white, trying to keep my breathing steady while the city lights flashed around me like judgmental eyes. I pulled into the neighborhood, a quiet cul-de-sac with neat lawns and porch lights glowing like nothing in the world could go wrong there. Amanda's location marker was still fixed in place. House number 42. A modest 2-story with a red door and a black SUV parked in the driveway. Not her car. Not a work parking lot. I killed the engine and sat in the dark, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the house like it held the answer to every doubt I'd ever swallowed. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I didn't want to become the husband who stalks his wife's location. I didn't want to think the worst. But I couldn't unsee what was right in front of me. I got out slowly, my feet hitting the pavement like they weighed 1,000 pounds. I walked past the SUV, memorizing the plate, noting the baby seat in the back, the half-empty coffee cup in the console. I wasn't just stepping into suspicion anymore. I was stepping into someone else's life. I made it to the side of the house, stayed out of the porch light, and peered through the living room window. Curtains open. Lights on. There she was. Amanda. On the couch. Laughing. Not just present, relaxed. At home. And sitting beside her, with his hand resting on her knee, was a man I'd never seen before. He wasn't some client or coworker. He looked too comfortable. Too familiar. Amanda leaned into him, and when he kissed her cheek, she didn't flinch. She smiled. Smiled like I hadn't seen her smile in months. Like she wasn't exhausted or buried under stress. Like this was where she wanted to be. I stood there, completely invisible, while my entire marriage cracked down the middle. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I backed away from the window like it was burning me, made it to my car, and just sat there in the darkness, numb. My wife, the woman I had built a life with, shared a bed with, raised a daughter with, had a second life. One where I didn't exist. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember walking into our bedroom, seeing her side of the bed untouched, and realizing I didn't know who she was anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling like it could offer me some kind of explanation, some cosmic justification for what I'd just witnessed. The clock ticked minute after minute until 2:37 a.m., when I finally heard the garage door creak open. Amanda was home. I listened as her heels clicked softly across the hardwood floor, the rustle of her purse being set down, her quiet yawn like everything was perfectly normal. She came upstairs, gently pushed open the bedroom door, and paused when she saw me awake. "Hey," she said casually. "Couldn't sleep either?" I stared at her, at the woman who had just spent the evening in another man's arms, and somehow managed to nod. She smiled, kissed my forehead like it was just another night, and went to the bathroom to brush her teeth. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, to shatter the fake peace hanging in the air like a death rattle. But I didn't. Not yet. I needed more. Proof. Clarity. Something she couldn't spin with half-truths and tired excuses. Over the next few days, I played the part. I smiled when she spoke, kissed her when she left, and tucked our daughter in at night like everything was fine. But I was watching. Always watching. I started digging. I checked her phone when she showered, nothing. Either she'd deleted everything, or she was using something I didn't know about. I checked our shared credit card statements. Most charges seemed normal. Groceries. Gas. A few odd ones. Small charges to places I didn't recognize. I started writing them down. Then I checked the cloud. She'd forgotten to disable photo backups. And that's when I saw it. Dozens of pictures. Amanda in that same house. Amanda sitting at that same couch. Amanda with that same man. Smiling. Cooking. Playing with a toddler. A toddler. The realization hit me like a train. That man, he had a child. A child who looked just enough like Amanda that my stomach flipped. Was it hers? Was it his from someone else? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. She didn't just have another man. She had a second life. One where she wasn't just cheating. She was playing house. My chest felt like it would cave in from the weight of it. Every kiss, every lie, every I love you from the last 2 years suddenly felt like a rehearsed line in a play I didn't even know I was part of. The next morning, I drove back to the same house. I parked 2 streets away and walked. I watched from a distance like some kind of ghost haunting his own life. The man came out holding the toddler's hand. Amanda followed behind them, locking the door like she lived there. Like it was hers. She kissed the man. She kissed the child. And I just stood there frozen because now I knew. This wasn't some fling. This was a whole damn family. One that didn't include me. I don't know how long I stood there, watching them from behind that cluster of trees across the street, but time felt irrelevant. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. I just couldn't move. My legs were numb. Not from standing, but from the sickening realization that my wife, the woman I built a life with, had constructed an entirely different one without me. When they finally drove off, Amanda in the passenger seat of that man's SUV, the toddler in a car seat in the back, I crept closer to the house. I shouldn't have. I knew it was stupid. But I needed to see it for myself. I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. So I walked up to the porch, checked the mailbox. Their last name wasn't mine. Not hers either. Miller. I took a picture of the name on the mail with my phone and then noticed the welcome mat. It said Home Sweet Home. I almost laughed. It was so cliché, so painfully normal, and yet it cut deeper than anything else. I turned back, my stomach twisting, and drove away with my mind racing. I didn't go home. I didn't even know what home was anymore. Instead, I parked in an empty lot behind a gas station and just sat there, replaying the last few years in my mind like a broken film reel. The business trips, the unexplained expenses, the sudden shifts in mood. The weekends she claimed she needed me time, or was visiting her mother. She was visiting them. The pieces began to arrange themselves, and suddenly everything made sense. She had me, and she had them. 2 lives, 2 families, and she was managing to keep both going like a damn magician. The next day, I called out of work. I told my boss I was sick, technically not a lie. My soul was sick. My heart was sick. I spent the whole day combing through everything. Our shared drive, her Google location history, passwords she didn't think I remembered. And it all unfolded like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. She met this man 3 years ago. Business conference. Denver. I even remembered the trip. She brought me back a Denver Broncos cap and told me she missed me. She didn't. Emails. Photos. Airbnb receipts. Plane tickets. It was all there. She'd been flying out to see him every month, sometimes twice. They'd gone to Mexico together. Jamaica. I saw a reservation at a couple's resort I thought we could never afford. Turns out we could, just not for me. The toddler? A girl. Her name was Kaylee. I found a baby registry from 2 years ago. Amanda used her middle name as the first name to sign it. I felt physically ill. She had a child. She gave birth. She hid it. And yet, somehow, she came home to our daughter and kissed her goodnight like nothing happened. Like she hadn't betrayed every inch of trust we ever built. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I needed answers. I needed to look her in the eye and hear her say it. Hear her admit it. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. So I waited. That night, when she came home and gave me her usual soft smile and, "Hey babe, how was your day?" I didn't answer. I just stared. And for the first time, she looked nervous. She must have sensed something was off the moment I didn't respond. Maybe it was the way I was sitting, rigid, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Or maybe it was the fact that I didn't even look at her as she walked through the door. "Is everything okay?" she asked, setting her purse on the counter like she always did, slipping out of her shoes like it was just another Tuesday evening in our perfectly normal marriage. I didn't answer right away. I just stood up, slow and deliberate, and walked to the kitchen table where my laptop was already open. I had the pictures queued up, the receipts, the messages, everything. "You want to tell me who he is?" I asked, my voice low and shaking. I turned the screen toward her and watched her face go pale in a second. I wanted her to lie. No, I needed her to lie. I needed her to look me in the eye and try to spin some ridiculous story so I could finally explode. But she didn't. She didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She just sat down across from me and stared at the screen. "His name is Daniel," she said finally, like she was telling me something mundane. "And then, we met 4 years ago." 4. Not 2. 4. I felt something in my chest shift, like a thread snapping. "You've been living 2 lives," I said, 2 families. 2 versions of yourself. What the hell kind of person does that? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned back in the chair and looked past me, like she was somewhere else entirely. "I never meant for it to go this far," she finally said. "At first, it was just escape. He was different. We met at the Denver conference. I didn't even think I'd see him again. But then I did. And I kept seeing him. And it felt good to be someone else for a while. Not a wife. Not a mom. Just me." Her voice cracked on that last word, and I hated that part of me still felt something. Empathy. Pity. Familiarity. But I shook it off. "You had a baby with him." That made her flinch. "You looked me in the eye every day while you raised a child behind my back. How do you even justify that?" "I don't," she whispered. "I can't." There was a pause. A heavy, suffocating silence where I could hear the faint sound of our daughter upstairs playing a video on her tablet. "Does she know?" I asked. "Does he know about me?" Amanda nodded slowly. "He thinks I'm separated. He doesn't know about you." That was the final blow. So she lied to him too. This wasn't just cheating. This was something else. This was orchestration. This was deception on a level I didn't even know she was capable of. "I want a divorce," I said quietly. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just 5 words that sounded like thunder in the silence between us. Amanda looked up, her eyes filling with tears for the first time. "Please don't do this right now," she whispered. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. I didn't want to lose this." She gestured around our home. Our photos on the wall, our daughter's artwork stuck to the fridge, the matching mugs we bought on our honeymoon. "You already lost it," I said. "You just didn't know it yet." Then I stood up and walked away, not because I didn't want to scream or cry or tear the place apart, but because I knew if I didn't, I'd lose control in a way I wouldn't come back from. She didn't follow me. She just sat there, shoulders shaking, tears silent. And as I lay awake that night in the guest room, staring at the ceiling while my daughter slept down the hall and my wife wept in the next room, I realized something. The pain wasn't just from the betrayal. It was from the death of an illusion. The life I thought we had never existed. The next morning was the quietest one I'd ever lived through. The kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, it's oppressive. Like the house itself knew everything had changed and was holding its breath. Amanda didn't come out of the bedroom. I didn't go in. I made breakfast for our daughter like nothing was wrong, plastered on a smile that felt foreign on my face, answered her questions with nods and laughs that didn't reach my eyes. The moment she left for school, I sat down at the table and opened my phone. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. A lawyer? A hotel? Answers? I scrolled through contacts and messages until I landed on the one person I hadn't talked to in years, my brother Jason. We hadn't spoken since the fight after Dad's funeral, but right now, pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. Hey, I texted. I know it's been a while. I need to talk to someone. He called in under a minute. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. Somehow he understood. You can come stay with me, he said. As long as you need. That one offer cracked something in me I didn't even realize was holding. Later that afternoon, when Amanda finally emerged, her eyes were swollen and her face was pale. She didn't say anything, just sat across from me and waited. I'm leaving, I said. I'm taking Emma with me. Just for a while. I need space. And I don't want her around this right now. Amanda looked like she wanted to fight it, but she didn't. Maybe she knew it was pointless. Maybe she was too exhausted. Where are you going? She asked. My brother's, I replied. He lives near the coast. It's quiet. Emma likes the beach. Amanda looked down at the table and nodded. Can I talk to her before you go? You can see her whenever you want. I'm not taking her away. I'm just stepping back before this becomes a battlefield. The car was packed in under an hour. Amanda stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her own body together. Emma hugged her goodbye, too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to feel the tension in the air. And then we drove. Hours of silence on the highway, broken only by the occasional question from the back seat. When we'd get there, what it would look like if we could stop for ice cream. I answered everything. Gently, calmly, like none of this was happening. When we finally reached Jason's place, I expected awkwardness, hesitation. But he opened the door and pulled me into a hug that nearly broke me. Whatever you need, he said. That night, after Emma fell asleep in the guest room, I sat on the porch staring out at the water, wondering how many other men had been blindsided like this. How many thought they were building a life only to find out they were just background noise in someone else's story. My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. I told him. Everything. I owed you that. I didn't answer. I didn't know if I ever would. But I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it changed anything, but because part of me wanted to believe she finally understood what she'd done. Not just to me, but to all of us. The next few days blurred into one long stretch of numbness. My brother's place was quiet, peaceful even, with the ocean breeze slipping through the open windows and the sound of waves crashing in the distance, but none of it reached me. Emma seemed to adapt quickly, making friends with Jason's golden retriever, collecting seashells by the shore, and drawing chalk hearts on the porch. I watched her from a distance, trying to convince myself I'd done the right thing by leaving, trying to suppress the part of me that kept replaying Amanda's message over and over in my head. I told him. Everything. Did it matter? Did it change anything? She had told the man she cheated with the truth. So what? That didn't erase the betrayal, the humiliation, the months of lies. I didn't text her back. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't know what words were even left. I didn't know who she was anymore. One night, after Emma had gone to bed and Jason was out running an errand, I poured myself a drink and sat on the sand just outside the house. My phone buzzed again. Amanda. This time, she didn't say much, just a photo. It was of a necklace. Mine. One I gave her years ago on our anniversary, engraved with the words, always yours. She said she found it in the back of her drawer and wanted to return it. I stared at the screen until the backlight dimmed and the image disappeared. Why was she sending this? Guilt? A peace offering? A trap? I couldn't tell anymore. Later that night, I called my lawyer. I told him I needed to know my rights, especially regarding custody. He walked me through it all, what to expect, what to prepare for, what to document. I wrote it all down. Not because I wanted to start a war, but because I refused to be blindsided again. A few days later, Amanda asked to video call with Emma. I agreed. I watched them talk about school, art class, bedtime stories. Amanda was trying hard to smile, trying even harder not to cry. When the call ended, she asked if she could speak to me privately. I hesitated, but I agreed. She started softly, almost in a whisper. I know you hate me, and I know I can't take it back, but I'm not going to lie anymore. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen, waiting. It started 6 months ago, she continued. We met at a work conference. I thought it was just harmless flirting. I never thought it would go further. But it did. And then it kept happening. She was shaking. I told myself it was just temporary. That I still loved you. That I wasn't really doing anything wrong. But it was wrong. All of it. I betrayed you. I betrayed Emma. And I don't expect forgiveness. She paused. I just wanted to say it to your face. No more lies. No more pretending. I let the silence stretch until she shifted uncomfortably. I appreciate the honesty, I finally said. But that doesn't mean I know what happens next. Right now, I'm just trying to keep things from falling apart for our daughter. Amanda nodded slowly. I understand. I'll wait. For as long as it takes. If you ever want to talk again, I'll be here. The call ended. I stared at the black screen for a long time, not because I missed her, but because I wasn't sure what hurt more. Her betrayal or the fact that part of me still wanted to believe we could fix this. I went back inside and sat by Emma's bed, watching her breathe, her face peaceful and untouched by the storm swirling around her. And I made a promise to myself. No matter what Amanda did or didn't do, I would protect that peace for Emma at all costs, even if it meant never going back. The next morning, I woke up early, long before Emma stirred. The sky was still tinted with that soft pink hue that comes just before sunrise, and the house was silent except for the distant hum of waves and the soft rustle of the curtains in the ocean breeze. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at a blank notepad. I had written nothing since we arrived. No plans. No journal entries. Nothing to make sense of what had happened. But now, with everything Amanda had confessed still ringing in my ears, I felt the weight of it all begging to be put somewhere. I picked up a pen and wrote her name. Just her name. Then I stopped. I didn't know what to say next. What do you write to someone who dismantled your reality with a smile on her face and a lie on her lips? I left the page blank and walked outside. Emma was up not long after, and I did my best to stay present for her. We had pancakes with way too much syrup. We built a lopsided sandcastle. She asked if Mommy was going to visit. I told her maybe. I couldn't say no. Not yet. That night, Jason and I sat on the porch, and for the first time since I arrived, I told him everything. Every last detail. He didn't interrupt. He didn't flinch. When I finished, he handed me another beer and said, "You already know what you have to do. You just haven't admitted it yet." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Because he was right. I didn't want to go back. Not just to Amanda, but to who I was before. The man who trusted blindly. Who ignored the signs. Who kept believing love alone could fix anything. I wasn't that man anymore. And maybe that scared me even more than the affair. A few days later, Amanda showed up. She didn't tell me she was coming. I only saw her when Emma ran toward the front window screaming, "Mommy!" I stood frozen in the doorway as Amanda stepped out of the car. She looked tired, older somehow. Like the weight of what she'd done had finally started to show. She smiled carefully, unsure if she was welcome. "I just wanted to see her," she said, eyes flicking toward me. I nodded. Emma ran into her arms. I watched them hug like nothing had happened, like children don't feel the fractures that ripple through a home when everything falls apart. I gave them space. I let Amanda stay for dinner. Jason shot me a glance that said, "Are you sure?" But he didn't interfere. Amanda was quiet the entire time. Careful. Almost afraid to say too much. After Emma went to bed, we sat on the porch. Just the two of us. For the first time since the video call, we were face to face. "I'm not here to beg," she said, her voice low. "I just needed to see you. To see if there was still something left." I didn't answer right away. I looked at the sky. The stars had started to show one by one. "You made a choice," I said eventually. "Not once, but over and over again. You chose him. You chose to lie. And now, I have to choose what comes next. Not for you. Not even for me. But for Emma." Amanda nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I still love you." I looked at her. "Then you should have remembered that before you invited someone else into our bed." The word stung. For both of us. She didn't reply. Just sat there, staring at her hands. When she left that night, I didn't stop her. I didn't hug her. I didn't promise we'd talk again soon. I just stood there in the doorway, watching as the woman I once thought I'd grow old with walked away from the wreckage she helped create. And for the first time, I felt something close to peace. Not because everything was better, but because I finally stopped pretending it could be. The days after Amanda left were a strange mix of quiet and clarity, like the emotional storm had passed but left everything soaked and scattered. I woke up every morning feeling like a new layer of something old was peeling away, revealing a part of myself I hadn't met before. Emma asked when Mommy would be back, and I told her the truth. I don't know. She didn't cry, but I saw her retreat a little, drawing pictures alone on the porch, asking fewer questions, making up stories for her stuffed animals that always ended with someone leaving and not coming back. I watched her and felt this sharp guilt twist in my chest. Guilt that I hadn't protected her from this, from Amanda, from everything unraveling. But I also knew this wasn't just Amanda's doing. I enabled parts of it by ignoring the red flags, by not asking the hard questions, by choosing comfort over confrontation. Jason helped where he could, keeping Emma busy, giving me space to sit with my thoughts, and sometimes just sitting next to me in silence. One evening, I opened my phone and stared at Amanda's contact. I didn't want to call. I didn't want to yell or cry or beg. I just wanted answers that wouldn't change anything but might finally close the door. Instead of calling, I opened the photos. The ones she sent over the years. Birthdays, trips, smiling selfies with Emma. Then I scrolled past those and into the hidden folder I hadn't touched since I found it. Photos of her and him. The hotel rooms. The beach. That selfie in our kitchen when I was at work. I stared at each one longer than I should have, trying to figure out when exactly her love for me had started fading, or if it ever really existed at all. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. But something hardened in me that night, something final. A part of me that had been begging for resolution got it, not from an apology or a conversation, but from accepting that I didn't need her version of the truth anymore. I already knew it. She chose someone else. She chose secrecy. She chose to lie not once, not twice, but for months, years maybe. And the man I used to be? He wouldn't survive that kind of betrayal. But the man I was becoming? He didn't need her to validate what came next. He was done waiting for the old life to come back. It was gone. And maybe that was okay. The next morning, I made Emma pancakes again, but this time I let her pour the syrup and make a mess. We laughed. We built another sandcastle. She asked again if Mommy was coming soon. And I said, not today. It was honest. It was enough. That afternoon, I drove into town and found a local attorney. I didn't bring paperwork or anything official. I just said, I think it's time I file for divorce. And the words didn't shatter me like I thought they would. They sounded like the start of something I'd been putting off for far too long. Filing for divorce wasn't the dramatic, emotional event I'd always imagined it might be. It was quiet, procedural, and oddly empowering. The attorney nodded, asked for details, and as I sat there recounting 12 years of marriage and its unraveling, I didn't cry, didn't hesitate. I just laid it all out, how Amanda had changed, the lies, the second life, the man I found in photos and in our bed through the memories left behind. The lawyer asked if I had proof. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I had too much of it. Photos, timestamps, receipts, and the aching look in my daughter's eyes when she asked about her mother. We filed that day. Amanda didn't contest it. She didn't call to beg or explain. In fact, after that last message, she never reached out again. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe she'd fully moved on. Or maybe she just never planned to come back in the first place. The days that followed were still hard. Healing doesn't follow a schedule. I'd catch myself staring out the window, wondering if she thought about us, about Emma, about me. But then I'd hear my daughter laughing in the other room, and I'd remember what mattered. She needed me present, not haunted. We created new routines. Sunday pancakes turned into beach walks. Bedtime stories became our ritual. And every time I saw Emma smile without asking where her mother was, I knew we were making progress. Jason stayed close, not just as a friend, but as someone who stepped in with genuine care. He never pushed, never pried. Just showed up with groceries, tools to fix the loose porch rail, or a movie Emma might like. I didn't realize how much I needed that stability until it was there. I started writing again. Not to publish anything, just to let it all out. Page after page of unspoken feelings, of the kind of hurt that doesn't always fit in words. And then one night, while cleaning the garage, I found a box Amanda had labeled Memories. Inside were old letters, photos from our early days, even a mixtape she made back when we were dating. I held it in my hands and smiled, not out of nostalgia, but closure. That love existed once, even if it died somewhere along the way. And I could mourn it without needing to resurrect it. The final court date came and went. I walked out of that building with a single piece of paper and a strange sense of peace. I wasn't just someone's husband anymore. I was a father. A man who'd been betrayed and broken, and then rebuilt himself. Stronger. Smarter. Kinder. One night, weeks later, Emma fell asleep in my lap while we watched her favorite cartoon. I looked down at her, brushed her hair back, and whispered, "We're going to be just fine." And for the first time in what felt like years, I truly believed it.